I'm Matt.
I'm Shane.
And if you like what you hear, make sure you hit that thumbs up button real hard, and make sure you subscribe to Comic Movie Marks.
And also click that little bell for all of the notifications.
Whee!
Always remember,
If Trailer Trash can do it,
anyone can do it.
hello and welcome everyone to another Comic Movie Marks video. Much better.
We made a joke in a previous episode about some low-hanging fruit. Well, now here comes the punchline several episodes later. We are going to be talking about low-hanging fruit and the, I guess, how it deals with comic book movies? Sort of. Fandoms. That's what it is. Low-hanging fruit of the fandoms.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Let me redo that.
Ruh-roh.
Raggy. That was supposed to be me rewinding, not Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, we already did that joke, but
Yeah,
we'll do it
yes,
again.
we did. Fucking, I cannot get it. Well, I don't know how the fuck do you how do you rewind your voice? Yeah, there we go. Sort of.
I don't know. That sounded more like a car stopping
It did.
or a duck getting a shot in the ass.
Anyways, low-hanging fruit. Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the fandoms and the reaction that some people seem to have of thinking somehow numbers rule the world when it comes to these movies, which in some sense, you know, box office, that's what some studios are looking at. It's just box office success. But it just seems to be a way to communicate with people or disagree with somebody when it really has no relevancy to the actual discussion going on.
It kind of reminds me of someone who continually reminds us that the 49ers have 5 Super Bowls, even though it happened, you know, whatever, 20, 30 years ago, roughly. And, you know, no relevance, but it's still a number thrown out there.
Yeah, and they keep bringing it up 5 times over and over again.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's truly sad when that type of individual does that stuff. You almost feel bad for him. You just want to give him like a hug. Not really. Sometimes they're really ugly looking, and you don't want to give them a hug. But in this,
no, we just hold hands during Hitch, but it's fine.
Wow, this is too inside. Just to explain it a little bit, that's our friend Mike.
Yes, if you listen to any of our wrestling episodes that we have our good friend Mike on, we have a bunch of running jokes about us going to see the movie Hitch, not realizing that it was a chick flick. We thought it was a comedy, so we left the theater holding hands. Just to add on top of it, because 3 dudes were like, "Oh yeah, let's go see this new Will Smith movie." Oh shit, it's a chick flick. And I guess we're pretty dense and didn't fucking realize it. So yeah, there's the inside joke. He is also a 49er fan who is still living in the past. And will continue after Garoppolo and his beautiful start to this season.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
So we're going to talk about the low-hanging fruit syndrome that we're calling it. That's what I remember. Shane and I were texting back and forth. Like, I could not understand why people seem to project this. They just spew out these random numbers and they think they've won an argument or won a disagreement. I remember Shane and I were talking about it, and Shane actually texted me. He's like, I just think it's because it's low-hanging fruit. It's the easy thing to say. And I was like, that's perfectly sums it up. And let's do an episode. So
here we are.
So to kind of explain what we're talking about with low-hanging fruit, we'll just pull up a quick little definition of the low-hanging fruit. A thing or person that can be won, obtained, or persuaded with little effort. So very little effort put into trying to obtain or win something, like an argument.
That seems to be today's society. Oh, I see a funny meme. It must be true. Politics. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, all that
titles.
Bullshit.
Yeah, you know, clickbait titles.
Yep, that must be true. I read something. Must be true. Here's my opinion.
Where'd you hear that?
The internet.
And you believed it?
Yeah, they can't put anything on the internet that isn't true.
Where'd you hear that? The internet.
Oh, look, here comes my date. I met him on the internet. He's a French model.
So one of the things that you see a lot, and this doesn't have to, and people may associate this with MCU fanboys or people like Marvel and stuff like that. But I mean, I see other people use it as well for other things, but the Rotten Tomatoes score. Even Ben Fritz in his terrible Wall Street Journal article kept referring to the Rotten Tomatoes scores of Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League. Why, when he's talking about a cut of a movie, a director's cut of a movie, he just brings up random Rotten Tomatoes scores? Go back to our channel, listen back to our old ones. Rotten Tomatoes is a joke. It's not a true system. It's an algorithm that is completely inconsistent. I mean, you can have a 2.5 out of 5 for one movie and it'll be fresh, 2.5 for another movie and it'll be rotten. And because the critics can choose whatever it's rotten or fresh, it doesn't matter. It's just, the score doesn't matter. It's basically thumbs up, thumbs down. That's it. That's what it comes down to. Like, they could put a score to it, but it doesn't matter. I've even seen 3 out of 5s get rotten scores. It's a terrible system. It's a completely incoherent system that doesn't provide anything other than a number for very simple people, or people that maybe are in a really big hurry, that don't want to traverse the landscape of the internet for reviews and people they like or people they can connect with as reviewers. Because I know you can look up the reviews for these critics through Rotten Tomatoes. One, you have to power through a shit ton of ads, and then you have to fucking get through their long ass, minimum word count review, and which really a lot of the times doesn't have any substance to it at all. There's some people that might do that, but really, what do people do? People always go back to the score.
Yeah, it's something, unfortunately, nowadays journalists, or in, I guess, today's journalistic world that we live in, or lack thereof, they just use the score for their argument. They're trying to add weight to their argument, whatever it is that they believe, and they will use it for that. And it's hilarious to kind of see, through each of the fandoms. DC Olympus actually posted this kind of funny meme of the Avengers Infinity War, and it was sitting at 83% at one point in time, and then Teen Titans Go to the movies was sitting at 89%, so higher than Infinity War. And then there's a little clip from Star Wars that's Anakin saying, "I don't think this system works." And then a bunch of people in the what DC Olympus shared, they're arguing over basically the score, and like how DC fanboys use it, and oh no, it doesn't make sense when it's irrelevant, or when it is relevant, and then vice versa. If it's relevant to your argument, then you're going to use, oh, see, obviously DC sucks because look at their Rotten Tomatoes score.
Right.
And so it just seems to be this grasping at straws. Like, you can't actually maybe refute what the individual that you're disputing with, arguing with, however you want to say it, you can't refute it. So the easy thing is, like, if the movie didn't get the best score in the Rotten Tomatoes world, then it didn't succeed. It's a failure. It's a complete failure. And we've talked about multiple movies on this channel that critics panned at the time and are now cult classics, some of the best movies in their genres, like The Thing. We've talked about The Thing numerous times. People panned the shit out of it. John Carpenter's The Thing. And now it's considered like a cult classic and one of the best horror films of all time. Still talked about to this day, of who was what, how they get the key, yada, yada, yada. I still see channels breaking that movie down. And it's just a moment where people try to use other people's opinions as a counter argument when it's really maybe not even theirs, or it's not even remotely feasible in this conversation. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, just for instance, I have one here I just saw where people were talking about Zack Snyder and shit like that. And one gentleman here on Instagram says, talking about the Zack Snyder cut and stuff like that, and problems that BVS had with the Ultimate Edition and theatrical cut. But he says, not his fault. WB is a control freak. Just go watch The Watchmen. Has a single greatest intro in a movie to date. Which I think, I don't know if I would say overall movies, but comic book movies for sure. I would say the intro to Watchmen, top 3. I could probably say number 1. I just don't want to guarantee it because there's a possibility that there is a better one, but it's definitely a fantastic intro. Fantastic intro. And instead of this gentleman that he's discussing this stuff with, instead of him saying, like, oh, no, this movie had a better intro, or this, or, Infinity War had anything had a better intro, or no, the choices there didn't match so much up with the graphic novel one. I don't know, something to that effect. Anything, a different discussion. All he does now is demean the gentleman by saying that is totally subjective. You are obviously a big Zack Snyder fan. The reality is Watchmen did average critically, and this is how he put it, did not much more money than its budget. We'll talk about that one here shortly. But again, this guy's talking about the intro to Watchmen, and this guy's response is, and so the movie did average critically. What does that got to do with the intro, man? What's that got to do with what he was talking about? Absolutely nothing. But for some reason, instead of debating to him about the intro of Watchmen, he brings up the critical score, or the critical reaction to the movie.
And not to go on this Rotten Tomatoes thing even longer, but one of my favorite things that DC Squad on Instagram does, if you're not blocked from them, yeah, I was just about to say, if you check them out on Instagram, they always have these funny comparisons. One of them that they had was Thor Ragnarok, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, Braveheart, 78, Gangs of New York, 75, Philadelphia, 78, Gladiator, 76, Forrest Gump, 71.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck on out of here, man. Go about your business.
That should tell you right there how solid Rotten Tomatoes is.
All right, now another one, box office. Box office is a good way to tell success of a movie, because obviously the more people that saw it, the more successful the movie was. It did its job. It entertained people. It brought a lot of people to the theater, and it made a lot of money, which is very good. But box office doesn't mean quality. All right, so if you look at the top earning movies of all time, I guess not necessarily counting inflation, number one would be Avatar. So you're telling me because Avatar made a fucking ass ton of money that all of a sudden now Avatar is considered one of the greatest movies of all time? Titanic, number 2. Star Wars, The Force Awakens. Avengers, Infinity Wars, number 4. Jurassic World. The Avengers. Furious 7. That's your top 7 right there. And you're telling me these somehow now are the pinnacle of cinemas, like of our movies in general? No, they're not. They're not. There's a lot of movies that are obviously way better than all 7 of these movies.
Yep, a lot of it you have to take into consideration is what the angle is, or what the aim is of the studio. Are they trying to make the most money possible? Unfortunately, for sometimes in DC, that seems to be the case, as opposed to just making a solid movie and having kind of fans behind that. If you are targeting a broad audience as opposed to maybe making your film rated R, where you're going to have a narrow audience, but you're just looking to make a great film. One of the examples that I brought up in the past when we've talked about box office, if you correlate it to anything else, music, just because a mainstream artist makes a shit ton of money, goes platinum or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that they are better than someone else, a la like someone like Justin Bieber. So you mean to tell me because he makes all this money that he's better than some other musical artists? No, he's just more mainstream.
Nickelback.
Exactly. Exhibit A, Your Honor.
Jordan pays back. Swish.
And that's the game. Exactly. So just because they are mainstream, they are targeted towards a mainstream audience. It does not make them better. It's the same thing with movies. If you have a movie that's targeted for a mainstream audience, you want everyone to go see it. You want people to bring their kids. Therefore, you can earn more money because they're bringing, their kids with them. That's extra tickets. Then yeah, it's going to make more money. Does not necessarily equal better.
And not saying these movies aren't successful, because they obviously accomplished a great feat.
The goal that they wanted, the goal that they set out to have is, let's make this movie make a shit ton of money as much as it possibly can. Boom.
The old adage, if you're stuck on an island and you got 3 movies that you're going to be stuck with on that island forever, you know, is it going to be any of these 7? Is it going to be Avatar, Titanic, Star Wars,
Great point.
Force Awakens, Avengers: Infinity War, Jurassic World, The Avengers, Furious 7? I seriously doubt that it's going to be either one of those.
I don't know.
It would probably be Castaway.
Titanic, Castaway. Oh, that's a fantastic movie.
Well said.
Well said.
I'm sorry, Wilson! Wilson, I'm sorry! I'm sorry! Wilson! Wilson!
I seriously doubt. I mean, someone could probably say, no, I would totally have Infinity War, or yeah, I guess Shane would want Titanic. I guess there's titties in that, but you could probably find a better movie with better titties.
Exactly. Oh man, I remember.
But you'd have to get the big double VHS.
Yep, I was just about to say that. I remember when I was a younger kid, and there was a double VHS, and I'd always fast forward to that part. I think it was in tape 2, maybe. Fast forward, boom, there it is. All right, pause and good.
There was a ghost.
Good times. Be kind, rewind, or fast forward.
So again, another example of just, I'm not sure what this represents, but this one gentleman on Twitter, he says, like I said, the context of the thing doesn't really matter too much, but he said, like I said, Winter Soldier was a better film, higher rated, made $1.2 billion, and I stand by my argument.
What the hell are you talking about?
What argument? You just gave us stats. What argument is there? You didn't give us, like, I understand it's Twitter and you're limited in your characters, but you gave us stats. You went on Google, and I bet the 1.2 billion comes up, and obviously the Rotten Tomatoes score probably comes up just when you Google that. And yeah, he even brings up, you can enjoy your BVS thing that has 28%. I guess that kind of goes back to the Rotten Tomatoes thing, but again, that's his argument. That's what he comes up with, and it's kind of low-hanging fruit. It really means nothing. That's not a discussion. So a new one that actually recently came up to me, came up in my little world recently, is apparently now people are counting the views on a trailer as if that means now that means that movie is now successful because it gets more views on YouTube for its trailers. There's one account that decided to point out the fact that Captain Marvel, roughly 21 million views in its first couple days, and Shazam in 1 month got 20 million views on YouTube, on the official WB and Marvel Entertainment accounts.
It looks like it was Marvel and DC_Heroes, possibly, just kind of from what I'm looking at. They posted that, so...
DC Olympus. If you don't follow him on Twitter or Instagram, do it. I mean, majority of the shit, top notch. You know, usually pretty good.
Absolutely.
Pretty on point. They make these 20 million views, and then he brings up Suicide Squad official trailer. Number 1, this is 2 years ago, but 85 million views, and then Captain America Civil War, the first trailer on the Marvel Entertainment one, 11 million views after 2 years. So Suicide Squad is better than Civil War?
Yes.
Motherfucker.
Just to get that one, or actually, I think we have 2 trolls now. Just to get those 2 trolls who keep fucking thumbs down our videos.
They don't listen. You think
True.
those fuckers listen? None of them listen.
You child. You're so
they just go
childish.
into the comment section so they could talk to people and have interaction.
And thumbs down our fucking videos. I know it's them.
Butters, you're not looking at boobies again, are you?
No, Dad, I'm not looking at boobies.
No, that's me.
I would too.
And it's just silly little things like this. Like, okay, so now the view count on a trailer matters. And I mean, in some sense, yeah, it does. It shows the interest in a movie. But with YouTube, it doesn't really matter because, like, you know, the way YouTube's trending works, it could push a certain narrative if it wants to. Oh, look, another female superhero movie. Let's push it to the top of the trending list. You know, so it's a lot more accessible for people to do. But I guess it's enough to push a trailer forward. I mean, if you really wanted to. it could definitely push a trailer up in its views. Not taking anything away from the Captain Marvel trailer or the Shazam trailer, but also Shazam came out at the time of San Diego Comic-Con. So there's a bunch of trailers on the internet. It's hard to trend at that time compared to when Captain Marvel came out. Literally nothing's going on. Except for Joker, which totally just blew that shit out of the water. But it was, it's just kind of weird. It's weird what these fandoms try to do. And then our favorite one, sub count. Either your followers on a social media platform or your sub count on your YouTube channel. This is something that's kind of been thrown our way recently. And it's actually pretty fucking funny to me. Like, I remember our first troll ever made fun of us because we only had 79 subs. And said, this is why you... Remember that motherfucker?
Yeah, I do. Hey, you found us, you little bitch.
Yeah, 79. And then I remember we got shit talked to us about only having 500. Like, this is why you only have 1,000. And one of my favorite ones we got a little while back was actually when we did the proposition about doing snail mail campaign for the Snyder Cut after San Diego Comic-Con. And somebody put, hey, here's a funny thought, guy with 1,600 subs. No one cares what you think.
And then sue me for this! Smoke bomb!
I thought that one was pretty funny. I don't know. I had no idea what the hell the point of him bringing up the sub count was in that thing. And he didn't even listen to the video. Most trolls don't. And it's hilarious. I found that one to be great. We've had sub counts brought up, follower counts brought up. This is why this is that and stuff like that. But somehow people feel like that means they win the argument. And I always find it fascinating when they think they've won the argument with these reactions that really don't affect the individual because you're not actually disputing what we're talking about. You're not actually putting forth any kind of dispute or trying to change a mind. You're just giving numbers that really don't mean a lot to a lot of people. I mean, just one more example here. This is kind of just encompasses all of this shit. But this one doesn't even make any sense. It's just a screenshot on DC Olympus of these two guys having an exchange. This person put, Thor is more powerful than Superman. A guy answers, yet he whines like a little bitch when Stan Lee proceeds to cut his hair. Which, yeah, okay, kind of funny. And then this guy's answer to that is Batman vs. Superman, flop. Justice League, flop. Thor 3, super hit. Avengers Infinity War, third most number earning movie history. Actually, fourth. You're wrong on that.
Really?
No, not really. I can't back that up.
Right. Idiot. Yes.
Wrong!
I don't have to put shit in for this video. Look at that. We're just doing it all.
Exactly.
There's this idea that, individuals will always take the path of least resistance. We are naturally wired to take the path of least resistance. That when the inability for an individual to actually process something, we're gonna cling to those easy and very reachable disputes and arguments.
Yeah, absolutely. You can tell as soon as you're having a debate with someone when they jump into all this bullshit, low-hanging fruit, or they start referring to like name calling and just jumping, or I should say deferring, not referring. Once they jump to name calling, then you've lost, the argument's gone at that point. Then you're like, okay, I thought we could have a decent debate, go back and forth. But nope, as soon as it gets to that, calling people childish or whatever, your opinion is nonsense and is bullshit if that's what you're going to resort to.
It makes me wonder, like, okay, what's the point of this comment? Like, you are
Right.
putting yourself out there on a comment board on the internet, which is, it's probably going to stay there. That's going to be your word right there. People just throw random shit out there that make no sense. But, it's kind of broken down in a way where, there's a study out there talking about how we're wired to do this. And it said, imagine you are in an orchard trying to decide which of many apples to pick. On what do you base your decision? Most research into this type of decision making has focused on how the brain uses visual information about features such as color, size, and shape to make a choice. But what about the effort required to obtain the apple? Does an apple at the top of the tree look more or less tempting than the low-hanging fruit? Basically, what we're talking about, our brain tricks us into believing the low-hanging fruit really is the ripest, meaning that is our best option. You know, our brains are wired in a way, some people in a way, they will cling to that because that's where our brains go, because we think that's the best choice.
Now he's a philosophizer.
The cognitive dissonance of this whole situation. We've talked about this before with the anchoring effect, what that really means, the cognitive bias. And more people start saying it and it carries and it becomes the only thing. Like that one guy says, that's my only argument. That's my argument. How is that your argument? That's not an argument. That's stating some numbers that you can easily Google and would pop up right away.
Right.
That's not an argument. That's not an argument. It's just kind of a discussion that we have about individuals and about community and about how fans should treat each other. A big takeaway is awareness. A minority of the study participants chose to change their actions rather than take the path of least resistance. That is, they realized that moving the handle the right way was getting harder, and they resolved to overcome the extra effort to make the correct decision. Awareness in the case, and so many cases, is realizing when something's challenging and deciding not to take the easy way out.
Boom. Mic drop.
You know, we're not trying to like educate people. We're not some fucking philosophizers.
No, by no means.
I speak of a deeper wisdom. The problem, Homer, is that the mind is always chattering away with 1,000 thoughts at once.
Yeah, that's me, all right.
But it is kind of a situation where no matter what side you're on, like I kind of even see DC people do this, and I get that there's this knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people that defend the DC universe. I mean, though I see this a lot where they'll be like, the first 5 DC movies made way more than the first 5 MCU movies. And I'm like, yeah, technically true. Yes, true. But then when you get into MCU movies 6 and 7, Avengers and Iron Man 3, those 2 movies alone almost make more than all those first 5 DC movies. So, because Avengers it does make more. Avengers made over $2 billion. Iron Man 3 made over $1 billion. And it almost completely blows that shit out of the water. So, it's when you start I get the knee-jerk reaction. I get the knee-jerk reaction people have because DC fans have really been pushed back against the wall. So sometimes there's this reaction. You know, we want to prove that the DC universe isn't a failure. It isn't. It's made plenty of money. It's made more money in their first 5 movies than the MCU's first 5 movies. So how's it a failure? How is it a failure if it's doing better than what everybody compares it to? I get it. I get the notion. But everybody should try to have civil discourse and try to have real conversations. Like I was reading. This sounds really lame, but I'm been reading some of these other stuff, like about the lost city of Atlantis and shit. Anyway, and you're reading these people that have disagreements about the lost city of Atlantis, like where it could be and shit, and they're so fucking polite. And I get this is comic books and shit, and you know, it's not going to be like we're going to get the finest group of individuals, but I understand it's just comic books, but I'm just reading these stuff and people are so polite. Like, you know, that's very well put, but you know, I really think this, and like, it's so fucking nice. Like I was just reading that. I'm like, wow. Like it's a real discussion. And I was like, man, I wish we could have that. I wish we could have that. I was like, I wish we could sit down and just have these discussions. And so we need to duct tape Nick down and just beat the shit out of him. and try to make sure he sees what he needs to fucking see.
Right, exactly. It's that's a reason why we bring Nick on, because we like to hear the other side. Sometimes, you know, can get a little frustrating because you're like, what? How is Batman v Superman a 1? You know, that good stuff. But yeah, debate it's good. It's good, you know, kind of open your eyes a little bit. I don't do it so much anymore. I have less free time, I guess, but I used to debate politics, religion, all sorts of shit on Facebook like an idiot. And most of the time, most arguments would go south. There was one individual actually that I could go back and forth with, and we would bring up these examples, and then we almost just started playing devil's advocate just for the fun of it, and we were almost like role changing, and it was a lot of fun because it kind of opened your eyes like, oh, you may not change my mind, but yeah, that's a good point on whatever it is, and to show that you can, in certain things where people are so passionate about politics and religion and comic book movies, I guess, you can have those debates, but you know, they should just be civil and bring up different points, and you know, I guess that's the point of comic movie marks.
There's always a perspective that you'll never know about. No matter how much research you do on something, there's always going to be a perspective. There's always going to be an individual that thinks of something or perceives something in a way that you would have never thought of, because we're obviously all different people. That's always what's cool about a discussion, is you learn more. You can expand your horizon, if you will, when you start listening to other people's perspectives. But when you can't and you just want to argue, well, it doesn't become a discussion. It just becomes you basically yelling at your wall or your phone. I mean, because you're not impacting these people. Either way, if you're an MCU fanboy, DCU fanboy, or whatever, Republican, Democrat, whatever, you're not really affecting these people. No. You're just yeah, they might get annoyed. It's nothing. It's literally fucking nothing. It's imaginary words that are put into this imaginary bandwidth that we have called the internet. It's so artificial. It's insane. It's insane. It's the fucking Matrix, people. We're in the fucking Matrix, I'm telling you. All right? Open your eyes. Take the red pill, and let's do it. Let's go down the rabbit hole, Alice. In case I don't see you.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Go ask Alice when she's 10 feet tall.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. You're one of very few to make it to the end.
Yes, thank you very much.
Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Comic Movie Marks Podcast and hit the notification bell. You know, all these fucking YouTube channels say this shit, so I'm going to say it now.
Yes, it's perfect. And if you want to hear our full podcast, you can check out our podcast on iTunes or any other podcast subscription service.
Make sure you subscribe. Thanks again.